You are now listening to Operator.
This is WD40, yes, called after the rust removing spray, because we hope to smoothen our thinking a little bit in this hour. Today's episode is about AI, embodiment, and Persian philosophy, and specifically about the philosopher Surawardi. and we will take you on a journey in connecting these topics. And we do so, well, I do so together with and inspired by the one and only Farzané Nouri, artist, creative coder, sound artist, and researcher. But first, let's listen a little bit more to some glitches by Bjarni Gunnarsson. Welcome Farzané.
Thank you so much.
So great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing? How are you feeling today?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
I love the rain today.
Yeah?
It's pretty nice. Yeah.
What do you love about it? Most people are like, I hate the rain.
Yeah, well, I think I like the smell so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it makes indoors also more cozy. So
yeah. That's the really autumn vibe.
Yeah.
Luckily we're warm here indoors.
Yes.
We have our coffee, we're calm and caffeinated.
Yes, and a super nice view.
Exactly. View of Rotterdam with some autumn trees in front of us.
Yes.
You are, well, I described you as a creative coder, a researcher, sound artist. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about what you do in your art practice?
Yeah. So when I was very young, I was classically trained, but I moved to the Netherlands in 2019 to study electronic music. So I studied sonology in The Hague. And during my studies, I found out that I was super interested by programming and all the ways that it kind of like opened up in front of me. So I kind of put my focus mostly on programming and computer music, algorithmic composition. But I also use acoustic instruments or even field recordings. But yes, that was my main research. And in 2021 to 23, I developed, I call it an improvising agent in Super Collider to kind of act as a collaborator with me. Because when I was first working with these generative environments, what was interesting for me was that it felt like I had a collaborator, because I would have an idea and then put it in the computer. The system would take it somewhere else. That would like spark new ideas in my head. So then I thought about, what if I create something that is specifically created to improvise with me?
Yeah, but that's really interesting, because you're saying you're classically trained. Mm-hmm. Which is maybe like the opposite, and now you're describing this journey and ending up like using generative AI, which somehow intuitively feels like the opposite. Mm-hmm. Like, how were you classically trained? Just going back a little bit.
Yeah. So I was super young, maybe 4 or 5 years old. I started with like ORF studies, like music theory for children.
Yeah.
And then I was trained on piano. So yeah, as you say, it was quite structured everything. But what was nice about sonology was that we had the option to take it any direction that we wanted to, and to experiment. And also people who were studying there came from very different backgrounds. So being in the same school with them, you would try new things, or we had very different lessons, but it was pretty much up to you what you wanted to do. So yeah, coming from a very structured field of music, this was super interesting for me, that I could have control over the smallest parameters of the sound, and to get creative with the process of composing sound in the first place.
Yeah. And it's both also quite mathematical, I think. Like, I'm just thinking about music theory starting there when you're 4.
Yeah.
Very young. And then maybe this is also mathematical, but a lot more open for interpretation, or like creativity, or like going your own route. And I like what you just said about that you control like the smallest particles of the music, because you sent me 4 songs or sound files, and the one we just opened with was from Bjarni Gunnarsson from the album Volume and Void.
Yes.
And this is called Wreck. And I, of course, then go into like a little bit of research, and I'm trying to understand. And I think he is an Icelandic artist, also works with like generative sounds, and also with these small particles, right?
Yeah. So actually, he's a teacher at sonology, and I was super lucky to have him as my mentor, which was great. I learned a lot of things. So all of my knowledge in programming started from there with Bjarni, and I also really, really, really love his music. I can listen to those sounds for hours. So, I always find that a good connection.
Would you say he's the one that got you into, like, on this path?
Yeah, I would say so, because he also, I would also listen to his music, and that was inspiring. And he was very generous and open about sharing his knowledge. So I would definitely say so, that he had a very big impact on my artistic path.
Oh, so special. It's nice you chose this as an opening song.
Yeah.
I also like finding out about these things while we have the conversation. And I'm also curious, like, what is it that is there something that you said, this is what he told me and what he showed me that I also integrate, or what, like what it really impacted me? Yeah,
I mean, there were a lot of things, but I think what I specifically like about his work is that mostly they're composed, so that it's computer music, but when you listen to them, they feel very organic and very gestural. And it's easy to get lost in the coding, and then to get, to lose the flow, or, the flow of the music, because you're so much in the technical aspect. But, I just find a very perfect balance between, the programming part and also the artistic output. Yeah.
That it sounds organic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it requires quite some concentration, I think.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, to appreciate and listen to these sounds, and like to the... Would you say it's easier to appreciate it when you like know how it's made?
I think both. That's why I find this, or why I find Bjarni's music interesting, is because even if you don't know anything about the process, it still sounds, as I said, very gestural and very organic. So it's easy to kind of feel a connection to that, even if you don't have any idea that about the way he composed those pieces. Yeah,
it reminds me of dancing, which we will speak about later as well, where I think a really good performance looks very effortless and very organic and very relatable, but there's like a lot of technique behind it.
That's true.
I feel like maybe there's some similarity there.
Yeah, for sure.
And you just told me about this improvising agent. This is where, you developed this improvising agent. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I named it an actor. At first maybe I should say that when I say that this agent improvises, I don't mean to kind of reduce improvisation to analysis or calculation, because it's much more than that. it's some kind of embodied knowledge that you have as a musician or as an improviser, especially when it's about free improvisation, because you're not looking back on any pre-agreed structures. So yeah, maybe I should clarify that when I say it improvises, I mean that it merely can produce patterns and sounds that we can accept as improvisation.
Okay.
As I said, I developed it during my master's research, but then after that I had more research projects where I worked on the same agent, let's say. But
and what is it exactly? Just for the listeners to take them with us a little bit. It is a program, or is it a software? Or?
Yeah, so I wrote it in Super Collider, so you can think of it as as a block of code. And so what it does, at first I tried to kind of reverse thing into how I improvise as a person. And I thought about it quite simply. So first you listen, then you make a decision that's based on a compositional strategy, and then you create the sound. So this has three main parts, which is, they usually say it's based on the cognitive structure. So listen, reason, perform.
Yeah.
So the environment receives audio signals. It extracts audio descriptors from the signal, which could be the analysis. Then it makes a decision based on the trainings, and then it executes an action, which is creating the sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And you wrote the code for this?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Well, it started from, first I used to work with other models that people had written, but as it started growing, I also started writing specifically systems for that, and not using external libraries.
And what made you want to make this or develop this improvising agent?
Yeah, as I said, when I was first working with this coding environment, it was so nice that I was being creatively stimulated all the time by the computer. And then I thought it would be quite nice to have some kind of a collaborator for creating music, even if it's not a live performance, but you want to compose a fixed media piece. It's nice that you have an idea, but there's this other layer of agency which can take things in a different direction.
And you use it like this as well?
Yeah, for sure.
And how is it to work with this improvising? Does it have a name? Or is it
an actor?
An actor. How is it to work with the actor?
So an actor is, maybe it's better to ask this from people who've improvised with it as well, because, because from my point of view, it's very, again, creatively stimulating to work with that.
Yeah.
But I also think about, okay, how can I make the system better, or how can I develop it further? That's one part that my brain thinks about. But,
you always have this meta perspective,
exactly,
like working with it, but also working on it.
Yeah,
basically.
so that's why I said maybe like people who have worked with it would have a more concrete answer.
What did they say? Because I'm sure they gave something back to you.
I mean, it was a really important part to get feedback from people. I would work with, for example, a great musician, Hugo Liuret. And he was a big part of this creation, because he was kind of the person that I would try things out with, and he was very patient. And I would, so the feedbacks would be very important to to my practice, because that's how you know if it's working or not.
Yeah.
That's a way to evaluate it, to ask people, did you feel like it had enough agency to introduce new ideas, or did you feel like it was just following you and it was just a reactive system?
Yeah. And did they?
Yeah, so it had, at first, of course, first session, it was either agreeing with you too much or disagreeing.
Like ChatGPT?
Exactly. Yeah. Very good point. That it always agrees with you.
Yeah, I always tell GPT to stop agreeing with me and stop asking me questions, but it keeps on doing it.
Be objective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But your actor is not trying to agree too much.
So, improvisation is about following other people's ideas, but also about, just putting ideas in the middle. So if you're just following what other people are doing, you wouldn't really be improvising, but you're, reacting, or, so it was just I would say a balance between, introducing new ideas, but also following the person and knowing when to do that. So that's why you use machine learning for that.
Sounds like a delicate balance.
Yeah, I would say so.
Do you feel like it worked? Do you feel like you found the balance, that it really feels like an actor that gives you like organic feedback in a way, like on the process?
Yeah, I think at some points it definitely did. As I said, I'm developing it further. It's still an ongoing project. But of course there were moments that it was feeling very natural and nice, and at some points it wasn't working. So,
it's really exciting.
Yes.
I have so many questions. I'm also looking at the time, but maybe one more, because I'm also thinking using AI in music and sound is a little bit controversial, right?
Yeah.
Because I think in the industry is saying like it's going against authenticity. You're using it to maybe foster authenticity. How do you what do you say to people who are criticizing it for just the sheer use of AI?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it really depends on how you're using it. For example, if you're using AI to give you final products, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, it's fine to do it, of course, but I think the interesting bit for me is when you work with the system, and I would say
like the work with the system, but also because I feel like you're working with the system, but you're also using it. You also made the system, right? Because in the end, it's also machine learning, so maybe it's a bit more nuanced than that. You work with a system that you create, but as well as, you keep maybe authenticity. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's a lot more nuanced maybe than just that.
Yeah. So as I said, using it to give you final products, because it depends on what you see art is or music is. So if you again want to reduce that to creating a final output, then of course using AI could make everything faster and easier for you.
Yeah.
But to me, creating an artwork is not just about the final product, but it starts from intuition, from your insight as an artist, and then only the last stage is creating an output.
This is Curtis Rhodes from the album Half-Life Part 1 called Sonal Atoms. It's from 1999. It's my birth year.
Oh, nice.
Sonal Atoms, it somehow really makes sense. What does this song or this soundscape do to you?
Yeah, so before I heard Curtis Rhodes' music, I used to read his works about microsound, for example, and I'd never heard any of his music. And then when I did, I was like, damn, this sounds very good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was also, I think this one had, like, for me, was the balance between having everything very well thought out in your research about sound, for example, but then, being able to let go of the control sometimes.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It's very spacious, this song. What does that tell you about the research? Because, for example, I don't know much about the sound research, so I hear the sounds and I hear that there's a lot of space and it's very... I don't know, it's very bodily in a way. Mm-hmm. Like I can feel the sounds in my body, and they're sometimes funny and they're sometimes very deep. And but I cannot connect it to the theory. And you do, and I'm wondering how.
Yeah, well, as you also said, for example, his ideas of microsound, if you look at them, he talks about sound and how you can divide that into smaller sections and smaller units until you get to grains and microsound. And here it was used pretty interestingly, I would say.
Yeah.
And also about the space that you mentioned. I think like the piece has a lot of dimensionality into it, but also the silences are super interesting to me and how they were used in the composition.
Yeah, I like that. I think the silence get a lot more attention or a lot more presence.
Exactly.
In this song, which actually reminds me that in language you need these spaces between words as well, right? To understand what is being said. Mm-hmm. They feel a little bit like the spaces between words.
Yeah, I think they're a very important, I think silence is a very important compositional element in general.
Yeah. Hey, when I called you about the show a couple of weeks ago, we were talking a little bit like, hey, I want to do the show, you want to be on it, what do you do, what do you research? And you were like, I research sound and I go into all these specifics. And I was like, oof, this is technical. And then you said, and recently I've been reading about Suravardi, this Persian philosopher, and I'm trying to connect it as well. I was like, oh, I know this man.
I was very surprised because that is very rare.
Yeah, so I don't know. I have this strange knowledge sometimes, but I have learned about some Persian philosophy, and Suravardi was one of them. Mm-hmm. And this got me super excited.
Yeah, me too.
Because I thought, wait, we're talking about AI. We're going to talk about embodiment and dancing as well. Mm-hmm. And then we have this Persian philosopher. Like these sound like topics that are totally unrelated. Yeah. But knowing a little bit what Suravardi talks about, then it really makes sense. And I think he has two topics that he's really known for. Also, maybe good to know, Suhrawardi is a Persian philosopher from 1200, so he lived ages ago. He was a Muslim. He was a mystic as well as a researcher and philosopher. And he only was like 37 years old because his thought was quite controversial, and then he was murdered.
Yes.
When he was living in Aleppo in Syria. So he was also wandering around. So there's this figure, and he has this thought, and he thinks a lot about different ways of knowledge. And I think this inspired you, right?
Yeah, for sure. In my research, I usually would call it interdisciplinary research because, as you said, I will get ideas from fields that are not initially related to sound or music, but then I try to relate them somehow. It might not make sense, or it might make sense, but that's why it's a speculation, and that's why it's interesting to me. I only started reading about his work a couple of years ago, which is also a bit weird. Because I never did it when I was in Iran. But when I was here, I started getting into Islamic philosophy, and just a little bit, but at the beginning already, the ideas were resonating a lot with things that were in my head.
And what resonates about his work with what you do?
So I think there is something that we miss when we have this analytical approach to sound or to anything, or to science, let's say. Like, for example, the Western, as in the Greek idea of science, is very analytical. So you observe things, and then you define rules for it, and everything kind of fits under those set of rules. But then you have no space for rituals or for mysticism or and what's interesting about these philosophers is that they kind of also talked about these other layers that might be present in any learning situation. So talking about learning from this perspective, that's how I found the connection to the agent, because that also had a learning process.
And what is the learning process? Because from Suhrawardi, I know that he really makes this distinction indeed between like rational or like discursive knowledge that you're in the world, and then you experience something, and then you're going to think rationally about it, and then you understand it. And then he has this presential or like intuitive knowledge, and it's like this is this immediate knowledge. And I really like that you started the show, you were talking about you love the rain because of the smell. And this is exactly that intuitive knowledge. Like there's nothing that happens in between. You smell the rain, you know you love it. Like there's nothing rational about that. And I think that's exactly what Suhrawardi is talking about. And I'm curious how you see that with this improvising agent.
Free improvisation, I think, is very much about being present at the moment, because again, you're not trying to refer to anything or to fit within a specific structure, but it's about how you feel, it's about what you hear, and many more, your mood of the day, or the audience. This can all be factors that influence how you improvise. And so it's not like you can describe that for a person to be like, okay, whenever you hear a high pitch sound, you should do a low pitch sound. It's very much about the feeling that you have in the moment. And the way I was approaching it at the beginning with the analysis, so I was taking, as I said, musical information from the audio signal. So I was taking into account, for example, the amplitude, the frequency, or this kind of descriptors. But so this is quite that part of knowledge that is easy to transfer by in a book or something. But I think in our conversation I also mentioned riding a bike, for example, because what Sohravardi brings is that learning is not just about that transferable knowledge, but there's another layer of knowing that comes from being present in a situation. So that if you think about riding a bike, no matter how many books you read on how to ride a bike, you're never going to learn it unless you actually experience it. So the knowledge that you obtain by being present and experiencing something. And I just tried to think about different ways that I could speculate on that when working and designing the architecture of the agent.
Yeah. So you're almost granting this agent or this actor some sort of intuitive knowledge. You're kind of like, I'm gonna try for you to operate in that way, or like you said, we experience it as if the actor or this like AI agent has intuitive knowledge.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And it's it's not like it's gonna make sense every time, but I think like that's what speculation is about, to try if maybe two things are not related at all, or it wouldn't make sense at the end, but the research, I think, would be valuable at the end.
And it's because you're present that it makes sense. Like, it doesn't make sense talking about it maybe, but in the being present, it does.
Yeah. For example, one way that I tried to work with this, I was a guest researcher at Speculative Sound Synthesis in Graz, and I used to have performances before where two computers were improvising. So the same agent on two computers, they would listen to the sound of the other computer in the analytical form that I told you about, and then they would respond to each other. But during that research, I was questioning, okay, what if I don't communicate anything about the sound that they're producing, but I communicate their internal hardware performance data? For example, how much CPU is being used when you're generating that sound, or how much power is being used. And and I was like, we'll just see if it works. And it was quite interesting. I would say it kind of did sound like it was improvising. But what was even more interesting was that it opened up another way of having interventions in those situations. Because before, if I wanted to intervene when two computers were improvising, I would move knobs or faders. But this time I had to unplug the computer, or they said, like, they make this joke that electronic musicians might be checking their emails when they have a live performance, but during that live performance I actually had to check my emails. So that was interesting.
When the meme becomes reality.
Exactly.
This is what improvising can do.
Exactly.
Wow. Amazing. And so you were checking your email, and then what happened?
So the behavior would change because all these pipelines were connected. So it wasn't not merely sonification, but it was changing the improvisational environment for them. Because when the power consumption is more, it could mean that it's producing more complex sound, but it also could mean that maybe I'm using it for something else as well, and it couldn't really tell the difference. So
you were maybe just sending an email, your invoices during this performance.
Exactly.
You're like, my taxes. Still need to do my taxes.
Exactly.
This is a great opportunity. Hey, we're gonna listen to a song that you produced. It's called Kadam.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say, or do you want to introduce it?
Not really. I think let's just get into it.
we listened to Kadam, Step. And you made this together with the actor, right?
Yes. Yeah, so what I did, I was just taking a walk, just recording some sounds. And I went back home and I fed it to the system. And since it takes any kind of audio signal and doesn't relate it to anything, so that could be also field recordings, then the extra layer that you were hearing was added by the agent.
Because at some point I hear voices.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, because I was taking a walk and people were talking, and I was, you would hear my steps, but, the system would, for example, turn my steps into, kick drums or something like this.
Was that tumbling sound? At some point it got like very heavy and I felt like something was, I felt like balls like coming at me or something.
Yeah, I think the system was embracing my walking.
Really taking steps. Yeah, because Kadam, the name of the song with a Q, is called Step, right? Or that's what it means.
It's like taking a walk, but the difference, is that you're not maybe going somewhere specific, but you're wandering around. And it's that kind of walk. So trying to be attentive to your environment and what you see and what you hear.
Which also reminds me of this way of knowing. It's like not with a goal.
Yeah.
It's not doing research with a goal, not creating with a goal, but by being there.
Yeah, exactly.
In that very moment.
Yeah.
And how was it like? When did you make it? Like, were you already familiar with the?
I would say this is quite recent. I would say maybe a year ago. So yeah.
And because we had these like 3 things that we're talking about, right? Like we talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, this improvising agent. We talked about Persian philosophy, Suhrawardi. And then there was also embodiment, or like this embodiment knowledge. And you told me you work with dancers.
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell us about that?
Yeah, so I think 2-3 years ago, I started working on a project in Amsterdam with Iseka that was premiered, and it was a premiere project. And it was also premiered in Philharmonie in Paris. And that was my first serious encounter with dancers. And the good part of it was that we had all kinds of fancy gear and equipment. So we had this motion capture suits that get data from the movement of the body. And we would translate that into sound or light or visuals. And the suits are kind of fancy because they have sensors on every single joint.
Whoa.
And it's giving 9 streams of data per joint, 30 times per second. So
what kind of computer do you need to process all of that information?
Yeah, there's quite a strong computer, but also the software and everything is something that might not be that easy that much accessible to everyone. So it was a really amazing experience. And I worked together with this institute in Madrid, Stokos. They had developed an AI toolbox to do this interpretation from movement to sound or light. And I was also invited to take part in that and work on the toolbox. And it's been very interesting to work with dancers because it's, I wouldn't say this is my field of expertise at all, but they're very, again, getting back to this presential or intuitive knowledge, this embodied knowledge. There were very interesting experiments that we did. For example, when we just wanted to try something out, the dancer didn't know what was mapped to what, and of course it wasn't one-to-one, it wasn't sonification, so it was not like every time you raise your left hand the pitch would go up, but because there was this other layer of agency from the machine learning bit, there was more complex relationships to explore. And to me the most interesting part was when the dancers didn't know what kind of movements would trigger what kind of behaviors in the sound, and we would just tell them to try it out, and they would just move around and then find out what the connection is. And to me that was really interesting because the system was learning, and then the person was also learning, and it was like riding the bike,
Yeah.
So those bits were super interesting to me.
Yeah, it's nice. I like this. Also, when you were saying they didn't know how the computer, how they were operating together, so by movement they had to kind of improvise and know what's going on. And it reminded me of when I was listening to Curtis Road, or to your song for that matter. I don't know how it's made, right? So I can only use my intuition to feel and interpret the sounds that I'm hearing. Yeah.
This also reminds me of another project that we did with Oraj Akbari at Sonic Act, where I used this agent, thinking about the idea of acoustomology, so acoustic epistemology. Acoustomology is a term coined by Stephen Feld in the 60s. He goes to New Guinea and lives in the rainforest with the Kaluli people. They were a tribe. And since they were living in a rainforest, they couldn't really see far away because there are trees everywhere. And Stephen Feld understands that they have a very interesting relationship with sound, because through sound they know, for example, when it's about to rain, where you are in the migration cycle and the vegetation cycle. And he coined this term that knowing by listening. So knowing your environment by using sound as your primary, because I think the most intuitive thing, or the most common thing, is to use use visual information, to use your eyes. So I think also when I was working with dancers, something like this was happening, that they were listening to the sound and they were kind of learning how to work with that based on the sonic feedback that they were receiving.
Yeah, acoustomology it's called. Nice. And epistemology indeed is like a complex term to say, ways about knowing, like how do we know, basically. Very interesting. This reminds me actually of Izabela Duzek, a sound recordist from Poland. She was also on the show a year ago, or like this one. And she is born blind. And so the way she knows the world is through sound. And I remember asking her the question also, how does, she was talking about forests and differences, how they sound, and she said there's this super old primeval forest in Poland, I forgot the name, but it sounds like a cathedral. Then I know it's an old forest.
Oh wow.
Because it's so old, so the trees are so high, and you can hear that in how sound is resonating between the trees.
Yeah. That's super cool.
Yeah, she has this kind of knowledge. It's really interesting. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, for me as well. We talked about your projects, the things you did. Any upcoming projects that we need to know about? Or
So, yes, I'm working on an installation that Amina Solati will present in February at Sonic Acts. I'm also still working with ID Lab on some installations and performances that are coming up. Yes, and in a couple of weeks, I will play with Saba Alizadeh in Berlin. And the night before that in Amsterdam. So 2 gigs and some more long-term projects.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Picked up from Graces,